The city of Varus Prime glowed like a silver crown beneath two moons. Tall crystal towers reached for the dark sky, their lights flickering through the mist. Flying cars moved in quiet lines above the ground, and crowds of aliens filled the streets below. Tall, thin beings with shining skin and glassy eyes. But among them, one small figure moved slowly. It was a child, no more than 10 in human years. His name was Leary. His leg was twisted and weak. Every few steps he stumbled. His breathing was heavy, and his eyes filled with pain. Aliens passed by, pretending not to see him. Some even looked away, whispering, "A broken one. Poor thing." In their world, weakness was shameful. No one helped the lame or sick. The Empire of Joran valued only strength and beauty. Leary fell again. His small body hit the cold stone. The crowd flowed around him like a river around a rock. No one stopped. No one cared. His fingers shook as he tried to stand, but his leg gave out again. That was when a voice spoke behind him. "Hey, easy there. You're hurt." Leary looked up. A man stood there, short compared to the aliens, his skin pale, his hair dark and messy. He wore a dirty brown jacket with a small glowing badge that read, "Jack Wren, Human Engineer, Sector 9. Jack knelt beside the child. His human eyes softened. "What happened to your leg, kid?" Leary's voice was small, almost a whisper. It never worked right. I fell." Jack sighed. "No one helped you?" The child shook his head. Jack looked around. The alien crowd still walked by, eyes cold as glass. He frowned. "Heartless bastards," he muttered under his breath. Then he smiled kindly. "All right, hold still. Let me help." He opened the metal case he carried on his back. Inside were tools, clamps, wires, and metal rods. His hands moved fast, skillful. He looked at Leary's broken walking stick, snapped near the base. "This thing's useless," Jack said. "Let's make you a better one." Leary blinked in surprise. "You can fix it?" Jack grinned. "Fix it? Nah, I can make something better." He sat on the ground beside the boy and pulled out scraps of metal and a small energy cell from his toolkit. His fingers worked quickly, twisting and shaping, sparks lighting the dark alley. Soon a small mechanical crutch began to take form, sleek, silver, and strong. Leary watched in silent awe. The smell of hot metal filled the air. Jack worked with quiet focus, the faint hum of tools echoing between the walls. After a few minutes, Jack stood up. "All right, try this." He handed the crutch to Leary. It was light but sturdy, with a glowing tip that adjusted to the ground's angle. The boy touched it gently as if afraid it would vanish. "Go on," Jack said. "Give it a shot." Leary slowly stood up, holding the crutch. His leg trembled, but the support was perfect. Step by step, he moved forward. For the first time, he could walk without falling. A laugh escaped his lips, small, pure, full of joy. "I can walk. I can really walk." Jack smiled. "Told you." But high above, in the corner of the street, a security drone hovered silently. Its red lens zoomed in, recording everything: the human, the child, the crutch. The data streamed straight to the city's control tower. Jack didn't notice. He was busy helping Leary balance, adjusting the crutch's settings. "There, that should last a while. You need to rest, though." Leary looked up at him with shining eyes. "Why did you help me?" Jack hesitated. "Because you needed help." "No one helps here," Leary said softly. "They say the weak are a curse." Jack sighed. "Then maybe they forgot what it means to be alive." The boy didn't understand, but he smiled anyway. "Thank you, human." Jack chuckled. "Name's Jack, and you're welcome, little buddy." He stood and brushed off his jacket. The wind was cold now, carrying the hum of engines from the sky. He looked around the glowing streets, feeling a strange sense of unease, like unseen eyes were watching. "Better get going, kid. Don't want your folks to worry." Leary lowered his head. "I don't have any." Jack's heart ached. "Then stay strong. That's all any of us can do." As he turned to leave, Leary called out, Jack! The man stopped. When I grow up, the boy said, smiling through tears, I want to be kind like you. Jack smiled back, his breath visible in the cool air. Then this world will be better than it was before. He walked away, vanishing into the crowd. Up in the royal palace, miles above the city, a holographic screen flickered to life. Emperor Joran, ruler of the empire, leaned forward in his golden chair. His 4 eyes glowed like fire. On the screen, the image of Jack helping Leary played again and again. The emperor's voice was a cold whisper. Who is this human? And why is he touching my son? The guards bowed low, trembling. Find him, Joran said, and bring him to me, alive. The room fell silent. Far below, unaware of the danger, Jack Wren walked through the glowing streets, a simple man who had just changed the fate of an empire. The palace of Emperor Joran floated above the city like a dark moon. Its walls were made of black crystal, its towers sharp like blades. Inside, silence ruled, the kind of silence that made servants afraid to breathe. In the center of the great hall sat the emperor himself. His tall body shimmered with silver scales. 4 golden eyes watched the giant holographic screen before him. On that screen, a replay played again and again, a human kneeling to help a small alien child. The emperor's fingers curled around his golden staff. Pause, he ordered. The image froze. The child's face filled the screen. Leary's face. For the first time in many years, the emperor's eyes softened. The sight of that child made his heart tremble, though he hid it quickly. This footage, he said quietly. Where was it recorded? A servant bowed deeply. Sector 9, Your Majesty. A maintenance area for human workers. Joran's jaw tightened. And the human? His name is Jack Wren, registered as an engineer under the Trade Corps. He built something for the boy, Majesty. A crutch. The Emperor's hand slammed against the armrest. A what? A walking tool, Majesty. It allows the boy to move. The guards around him stayed silent, their faces pale. The Emperor rose from his throne, his tall shadow stretching across the floor. No outsider is allowed to touch royal blood, he said. No one, not even my own council, knows of this child's existence. He turned sharply toward his captain. You will find this human. Arrest him immediately. If he resists... His voice dropped to a deadly whisper. Break him. The captain bowed. At once, Majesty. As the guards rushed out, the Emperor looked back at the frozen image of Leary's smiling face. Something inside him ached. Once, long ago, he had hidden that child away, his only son, born with a twisted leg. To his empire, a disabled heir was a shame too heavy to bear, so he told the world the child had died. And yet, here he was, walking again, smiling because of a human. The Emperor's thoughts burned like fire. A human did what our doctors could not. He clenched his fists. This cannot be known. Down below the palace in the crowded lower city, Jack Wren was busy packing up his tools. He hummed softly as he worked inside his small workshop. The memory of the child's smile still warmed his heart. Poor kid, he muttered. At least he can walk now. He didn't notice the small surveillance drone watching from the corner of the ceiling, its red lens blinking. Moments later, his communicator beeped. He answered, expecting a call from his work supervisor. Instead, a strange voice whispered through the static. Jack Wren, they're coming for you. Run. He froze. Who is this? No answer, just silence. Then the call cut off. Jack frowned. Probably some joke. He turned back to his tools, but something felt wrong. The street outside was too quiet. The air carried a hum, low and steady. Then, the sound of marching boots. He moved to the window and peeked outside. A full squad of alien soldiers surrounded the workshop. Their armor glowed blue under the city lights. Great, Jack whispered. That's not a joke. He grabbed his bag and his old tool gun. The door shook as soldiers pounded on it. By order of Emperor Zoran, open the door. Jack's heart raced. I didn't do anything wrong, he shouted. The soldiers didn't answer. The door exploded inward. Smoke and sparks filled the room. Jack ducked behind a desk, coughing. He pointed the tool gun at the floor and fired. A pulse of magnetic force threw a cloud of metal shards into the air. The soldiers stumbled, blinded. Jack dashed toward the back door. He ran into the alley, his boots hitting the wet ground. Drones buzzed overhead, scanning. Red lights swept across the walls. He ran through narrow passages, his breath ragged. Behind him, a voice shouted through the loudspeakers. Human engineer Jack Wren is wanted by order of the Emperor. Surrender or be executed. Jack's chest tightened. Executed? For what? He turned down another alley and froze. Standing there in the shadows was Leary. The boy's crutch glowed softly in the dark. His eyes were wide and full of fear. They're looking for you, he cried, because of me. Jack blinked. You? What do you mean? Leary shook his head, tears running down his face. You helped me. But I'm not just anyone. Before he could finish, the sound of soldiers grew louder. Jack grabbed the boy's hand. No time. Move. They ran together through the maze of streets as searchlights flashed behind them. Above the city, in his palace, the Emperor stood by the window. The night wind brushed his robe. His captain approached quietly. My lord, the human has escaped. The child is missing. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. He's with the boy. Yes, Majesty. Zoran's golden eyes burned with fury and confusion. Then find them both. If the people learn that a human touched royal blood, it will break the empire. He turned back toward the stars, his voice low and cold. No mercy for the human. Bring him to me alive, so I may see what kind of creature dares defy an emperor. Rain fell over Varus Prime like silver needles. The city that once glowed bright now shimmered under a stormy sky. The upper towers were hidden behind clouds and lightning flashed across the metal spires. Down below, in the shadowy underworld of the empire, Jack Wren and Leary ran for their lives. Jack's boots splashed through puddles as he pulled the boy along. Keep close, kid. Don't stop. Leary's small hand gripped his tightly. His new crutch clicked and glowed with every step, adjusting to the wet ground. His face was pale, his breath quick. They'll find us, Jack, he whispered. Not if we're smart, Jack said, looking over his shoulder. Blue lights flickered behind them. The soldiers were close. Drones zipped through the rain, scanning every alley. The loudspeakers echoed through the streets. Attention! The human Jack Wren is a wanted criminal. All citizens must report any sighting. The words made Jack's stomach twist. A criminal and for helping a child. He shook his head in disbelief. Crazy planet, he muttered. They turned into a narrow tunnel under a broken bridge. The walls dripped with moisture and the air smelled of rust. Jack crouched behind an old power generator, pulling the boy down beside him. All right, he said quietly. We need to think. Where's the safest place to hide? Leary hugged his crutch. There's nowhere safe. The Emperor's eyes are everywhere, Jack frowned. You keep saying the Emperor. You mean? Leary looked away, trembling. He's my father, Jack froze. Wait, you're saying the Emperor, the guy hunting us, is your dad? Leary nodded slowly. He told the world I died long ago. He was ashamed. Because I was born weak, his voice cracked. When you helped me, the palace saw. Now they'll punish you for touching royal blood. Jack's mind spun. He let out a low whistle. Well, that explains why half the city's after me. He looked at the boy, small, scared, yet holding himself with quiet courage. Guess that makes you a prince, huh? Leary looked down. A broken one. Jack smiled faintly. Nah, kid. You're the bravest prince I've ever met. Thunder rumbled overhead. The tunnel shook slightly as heavy machinery rolled by above them. The sound of metal feet echoed closer among soldiers. Jack motioned for silence. They held their breath as a patrol passed by the tunnel entrance. Beams of blue light swept across the walls. One drone drifted inside, its red lens blinking. Jack's hand gripped his tool gun. He waited for the perfect moment and then fired. The pulse hit the drone and it burst in a shower of sparks. The soldiers outside shouted, running toward the tunnel. Time to move, Jack said, pulling Leary up. They ran deeper into the tunnels, twisting through dark corridors filled with old pipes and humming wires. Water dripped from above and strange sounds echoed through the metal halls. Leary stumbled, panting hard. "I can't keep up." Jack lifted him without a thought, carrying the small alien on his back. "You're lighter than you look," he said, forcing a grin. They emerged into the lower city, a vast maze beneath the shining capital. It was a forgotten world of steam vents, flickering signs, and broken machines. The air was warm and thick with smoke. Strange creatures moved in the shadows. Jack set Leary down behind a stack of crates. "We'll rest here." The boy nodded, shivering. "Why did you save me, Jack?" "You could have run." Jack took a deep breath. "Because it's what humans do. We help even when it's hard." Leary stared at him with wide eyes. "My people say mercy is weakness," Jack chuckled softly. "Then your people don't know strength." For a moment there was peace. The rain above faded to a soft hiss. Jack pulled out a small scanner from his belt, checking the signals nearby. "They've blocked all upper exits," he muttered. "We're trapped down here for now." Leary leaned against his crutch, looking at the glowing pipes that ran through the walls. "This place, it used to power the city," he said quietly. "My tutors told me stories." Jack nodded. "Yeah, power tunnels. Half of it's still active. Maybe we can use that." He walked over to a broken panel and began to tinker. Sparks flew as he rewired the circuits. The lights flickered back on, dim and orange. "There we go. A little light never hurts." Suddenly a voice echoed through the darkness, on calm, cold, and close. Well. "The famous human engineer and the lost prince." Jack spun around. A tall figure stepped from the shadows. An alien woman in dark armor, her eyes glowing red. "A bounty hunter?" Leary gasped. "Sarah Vex." Jack raised his tool gun. "Friend of yours?" "She hunts for the Emperor," Leary whispered. Sarah smiled faintly. "Correction, I hunt for whoever pays best, and the Emperor pays very well for your capture." Jack's heart pounded. "Then I guess talking's over." He fired and she dodged. Sparks lit the air as she swung a plasma blade, slicing a metal pipe. Steam burst between them, filling the tunnel with mist. Jack grabbed Leary and ran again, deeper into the maze. Behind them, Sarah's voice echoed through the fog. "You can't hide forever, human. The Empire never forgets." Jack didn't look back. He only tightened his grip on Leary's hand. "We'll see about that," he said through his breath. Above them, thunder shook the city. The chase was far from over. But for the first time, Jack felt something stronger than fear. He was no longer just running for his life. He was running for something greater, for a child who deserved to walk free. The tunnels beneath Varus Prime were older than the Empire itself. They stretched for miles under the city, dark, humming veins of metal and forgotten light. Once they carried power to the palace above. Now they carried secrets. Jack ran and Leary moved through the dim corridors, the air heavy with dust and heat. Steam hissed from broken pipes. Strange lights flickered in the walls like dying stars. Jack stopped to catch his breath. "All right, kid," he said quietly. "We lost her. For now." Leary leaned on his glowing crutch, panting. "That woman, Sarah Vex. She won't stop," Jack nodded. "Yeah, I got that feeling. She's good. Too good." He knelt beside a cracked metal panel and pulled out his tools. "If we're gonna survive, we need a place to hide and somewhere they won't think to look." Leary looked around. "These tunnels go deep. Some say there's a place down here that even the Emperor's eyes can't reach." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Sounds like a good place to start." He began working on the panel. Sparks jumped as he pried it open. Inside, glowing cables ran through the wall like veins. He followed them to a sealed door marked with an old symbol, the emblem of the first builders, a name even Leary had only heard in stories. "What's that?" the boy asked softly. "History," Jack said. "Maybe our ticket out of this mess." He powered up his scanner and hacked the control pad. The door clicked open, releasing a rush of warm air and the smell of ozone. Beyond it was a vast chamber filled with machinery. Giant turbines, glass tubes, and ancient lights. The room pulsed faintly, alive despite centuries of neglect. Jack stepped inside with awe. "Looks like someone left the lights on for us." Leary's eyes widened. "This is the core vault. My tutors said the first settlers built it, before the Emperor's ancestors took over." Jack looked around the glowing machines. "So before your people became rulers?" "Yes," Leary said softly. "Back then humans and my kind worked together. We built the first cities, but when the Emperor's bloodline took control they erased that history." Jack whistled. Figures. Power changes people. He moved to one of the machines, studying the design. You know, kid, this tech, it's not alien. It's mixed. Human engineering blended with alien energy cores. Leary tilted his head. You mean, humans helped build this? Jack smiled faintly. Looks that way. Guess we've always been part of this world, even if they pretend we're not. He connected his tool gun to the main console. Let's see what this thing still knows. The screens flickered to life, showing lines of alien code and old maps of the city. Jack scrolled through them, amazed. There's a hidden power route down here under the palace. It connects straight to the Emperor's private systems. Leary's eyes glowed in the dim light. We could use it to talk to him? Jack shook his head. Talk, not yet, but maybe we can use it to see what he's hiding. He pressed a few keys. The console hummed. A small hologram flickered above it. The Emperor's image, standing tall in his golden armor. Jack frowned. That's a live feed. They could see Joran pacing in his chamber, speaking to Sarah Vex through a communicator. Find the human, the Emperor said coldly. He carries knowledge that threatens the throne. He's clever, Sarah replied. But he won't last long. The image faded. Jack leaned back. So the big guy's scared? That's interesting. Leary looked confused. Scared? My father fears no one. Jack turned to him. You're wrong. He fears change, and you're living proof that change is coming. The boy looked down at his crutch. Its glow reflected in his wide eyes. You really think I could change something? Jack smiled. Kid, you already did. You made an emperor angry by just standing up. The ground trembled suddenly. Dust fell from the ceiling. Alarms echoed faintly from far above. They found us, Jack said, grabbing his bag. Time to move. He turned toward the far tunnel, but Leary hesitated. Wait, this place, it's part of who we are. We can't just leave it. Jack looked back. You're right. But if we don't live, no one will ever know the truth. He tapped a button on the console, downloading the vault's data into his wrist pad. Now the secret travels with us. They rushed through the narrow passages as the lights behind them dimmed. The roar of engines and the sound of metal footsteps echoed through the tunnels. The hunters were coming. Jack glanced at the boy who kept pace despite his limp. You holding up? Leary nodded, determination in his eyes. Yes, I won't slow you down, Jack grinned. That's the spirit. They reached a maintenance shaft and climbed up the metal ladder. As they rose toward the surface, the child looked down at the glowing vault below. Jack, he whispered. When this is over, promise me you'll show them. Show everyone that humans and my kind were once the same. Jack smiled faintly, gripping the ladder. That's a promise, kid. Above them, the storm raged louder. The Empire was beginning to shake, not from bombs or battles, but from truth, and in the dark tunnels of Varus Prime, a human and a lame alien prince had just lit the first spark of rebellion. The storm had not stopped for 2 days. Lightning cracked over Varus Prime, painting the steel towers white for a moment and then swallowing them in darkness again. The Empire's streets were locked down. Drones circled like hawks, scanning every shadow. The city whispered one name again and again, Jack Wren, the human fugitive. But down below in the forgotten tunnels, Jack and Leary still lived. Jack sat by a broken vent, watching the storms glow through the cracks above. His tools were spread out before him, wires, bolts, and a half-assembled device. Across from him, Leary slept lightly, using his crutch as a pillow. The faint hum of machines filled the silence. Jack's fingers moved quickly as he worked. Almost done, he murmured. He was building a signal scrambler, a small device that could block the Empire's drones for a few minutes, enough to escape. But deep down, he knew their luck was running thin. A sudden sound broke his focus, a soft click in the shadows. Jack froze. His hand went to his tool gun. Who's there? The echo of boots came from the dark. A figure stepped into the orange light. A tall alien woman in sleek armor, her visor glowing faintly red. Sarah Vex. Jack's jaw tightened. You again, Sarah smiled, calm and cold. You're clever, human. No one else has escaped the Emperor's reach this long. He stood slowly. Guess I'm special? Not for long, she replied, taking a step closer. Hand over the child, Jack's heart thudded. He glanced at Leary, who was waking up now, his small hands trembling. You're not taking him anywhere, Sarah sighed. You don't understand, human. The Emperor isn't just angry, he's desperate. That boy's existence threatens everything. If the public finds out their perfect ruler hit a broken heir. She paused, her tone sharp. He will burn the city to keep that secret. Jack raised his tool gun. Then he'll have to burn me first. Sarah tilted her head. You think you can protect him forever? You don't even know what you're fighting. Jack's voice hardened. I'm fighting for a kid who deserves to walk. That's enough for me. For a long moment, neither moved. Rain dripped from the ceiling. Then, in one smooth motion, Sarah fired a plasma dart. Jack ducked. The dart hit the wall behind him, exploding into sparks. Leary screamed. Jack pulled him down and rolled behind a pile of crates. Stay low. He fired his tool gun, sending a burst of magnetic energy across the tunnel. The shot hit Sarah's armor, throwing her off balance. She staggered but didn't fall. Nice try, she said, her voice cold. Jack grabbed the scrambler device and pressed a button. A pulse spread through the tunnels. The lights flickered and died. Everything went black, Sarah cursed softly. What did you do? Just leveled the playing field, Jack said. The darkness swallowed them all. Jack grabbed Leary's hand and whispered, Run. They sprinted down the narrow passage, guided only by the faint glow of Leary's crutch. Behind them, Sarah's footsteps echoed closer. The hunter never lost her rhythm. Every step calm, steady, deadly. They burst into an open chamber filled with giant pipes and hanging chains. The storm's thunder echoed through the ceiling vents above. Jack scanned the area quickly. There was only one way out, a bridge over a molten energy river. Go, he shouted. They ran across the bridge, the heat rising around them like fire. Sarah appeared behind them, her visor glowing red through the mist. Jack turned and fired again, but she deflected the pulse with her arm guard. The metal shook under his feet. Give me the boy, Jack, she shouted over the roar of the storm. You can still walk away alive. Not my style, he yelled back. The bridge trembled. Sparks fell from the ceiling. Jack reached the other side. Then a blast hit the walkway, throwing him and Leary to the ground. The crutch clattered away. Sarah approached slowly, her weapon aimed. It's over. Jack crawled forward, shielding Leary with his body. You'll have to kill me first, Sarah hesitated. Her weapon trembled slightly. Through her visor, her red eyes softened. Not with mercy, but with memory. You remind me of someone, she said quietly. Someone I once believed in. She turned her weapon aside and shot the ceiling instead. The impact sent debris crashing down between them, blocking the path. Jack blinked in disbelief. What are you? Sarah's voice came through the dust. They'll think you're dead now. Don't waste the gift. Then she vanished into the smoke. Jack coughed, pulling Leary to his feet. Come on, kid. We've got a second chance, Leary's voice shook. Why did she help us? Jack looked toward the fallen bridge, his heart still racing. Maybe she's tired of serving monsters. Above them, sirens wailed through the city. Soldiers would soon arrive. Jack picked up the crutch and handed it to Leary. We move now. No stopping. They disappeared into the darkness once more, the echoes of the storm fading behind them. Far above, in the Emperor's throne room, Sarah Vex knelt before Zoran. The human and the child, she said coldly, are dead. The Emperor's golden eyes narrowed. Show me proof. Sarah handed him a fragment of the destroyed bridge, still hot with plasma. There is none left to find. Zoran studied her carefully, then nodded. Very well. You have done well, Hunter. Sarah bowed, her face hidden, but inside she felt something new. Guilt. The image of the human shielding the child burned in her mind like fire. Outside, the storm finally began to fade. The Empire believed the fugitives were dead. But deep below, in the silent heart of the city, a human and a prince walked through the shadows and alive, unseen, and carrying the truth that could shatter an empire. The rain had stopped. For the first time in many days, the skies above Varus Prime were clear, and the twin moons glowed over the shining towers. The city looked calm, but beneath that peace lay silence. The kind that came after lies were buried too deep. Everyone believed Jack Wren and Prince Leary were dead. The Emperor had announced it himself, his golden voice echoing across every broadcast tower. The human fugitive has been eliminated. The royal blood remains pure. Order has been restored. The people cheered because they were told to. But not all believed it. Some whispered that the Emperor's tone had trembled when he spoke. Just slightly. Just once. And far beneath the city, hidden deep in the broken tunnels. Jack and Leary still breathed. They lived in the ruins of an old maintenance station. The walls glowed faintly with blue light, powered by the last energy cells Jack had stolen. Rust and dust covered everything, but it was safe. For now. Jack sat cross-legged beside a small heating unit, cleaning his broken tools. "That hunter really sold it," he muttered. "The Emperor thinks we're gone." Leary, sitting nearby, looked up. "That means we can rest?" Jack shook his head. "Rest, yes, stop, no. The truth you showed me down here on the old machines, the data, the proof that humans and your people once built this world together. It can't stay buried." Leary touched his crutch softly. "If Father sees it, he'll destroy it." "Then we don't show him," Jack said, eyes firm. "We show everyone." The boy looked confused. "Everyone?" Jack smiled faintly. "Your empire runs on lies, but if the people see what really happened, that humans weren't slaves but creators, they'll start asking questions. Questions your father can't silence." Leary thought for a moment. "How do we do that?" Jack stood and looked at the ceiling. "We broadcast it." 2 days later, they were ready. Jack had rebuilt one of the ancient transmitters they'd found in the core vault, the old station where they first learned the truth. The machine hummed like a sleeping beast, its panels covered with alien markings and human numbers. Leary watched him work, eyes wide. "Can this really reach the whole city?" "If I'm right," Jack said, tightening a wire, "this thing can reach the entire planet." He slid a memory chip into the slot, the one he'd downloaded from the core vault. Inside it was the story the Emperor tried to erase. Recordings, schematics, names of the first builders, human and alien together. The light on the console blinked green. "It's ready," Jack said. "Once I press this, there's no turning back." Leary nodded slowly. "Let's do it." Jack looked at him. "You sure, kid? If we do this, your father might never forgive you." Leary's eyes shone with quiet strength. "He already cast me away. Let him face what he's done." Jack smiled. "You sound like a prince now." Then he pressed the button. Across Varus Prime, every holoscreen flickered. Every citizen stopped what they were doing. The Emperor's golden emblem vanished, replaced by an image of a dark chamber. Old machines glowing, Jack's voice echoing through the speakers. "This is Jack Wren, a human engineer. I was hunted for an act of kindness. But I found something your rulers never wanted you to see." The footage changed, showing old recordings from the core vault, humans and aliens working side by side, laughing, building the first cities. Then came a title that glowed across the screen. "We built this world together." Gasps spread through the city. Workers looked up from their tools. Students stopped in the middle of lessons. Even soldiers froze in their patrols. Then the image of Leary appeared, standing tall, holding his glowing crutch like a symbol. "I am Leary Zoran," he said. "The Emperor's son. I was born weak, but a human gave me strength. He gave me hope. Our empire forgot compassion. It forgot truth. But I will not." The city went silent. The whole world seemed to stop breathing. Inside the palace, the Emperor rose from his throne, his golden eyes wide with disbelief. "Impossible," he hissed. Saravek stood before him, her armor dark, her expression unreadable. "It's him, Majesty. The boy and the human, they're alive." Zoran's voice shook with fury. "Find them. Destroy every screen. Shut it down." But it was too late. The message had spread beyond the city, beyond the Empire's control. The truth had already escaped. In the tunnels, Jack watched the broadcast from a small holoscreen. The city's glow reflected in his eyes. "It's done," he said quietly. Leary smiled for the first time in days. "Do you think they'll listen?" Jack looked at the sky above the broken roof. Once people see truth, they can't unsee it. Far away, distant sirens began to howl, not of soldiers but of crowds rising. Citizens were gathering, shouting words that had not been spoken in centuries. Freedom for all. Jack turned to Leary. "You've started something big, kid." Leary looked back at him with calm courage. "No," he said softly. "We started it." And as the city above them awakened with rebellion and light, the two fugitives stood together, a human and a prince, no longer hiding, no longer afraid, ready to face the dawn of a new empire built on truth. The city of Varus Prime was no longer silent. For the first time in centuries, its people filled the streets, not with obedience but with voices. The great towers shook with chants that echoed through every level of the empire. Truth for all. End the lies. Long live the prince. Every screen still replayed the forbidden broadcast. The truth Jack and Leary had unleashed. No matter how many soldiers smashed consoles or shot at displays, the message kept returning like a ghost. It had already spread beyond the city, beyond the Emperor's control. In the grand palace above the chaos, Emperor Joran sat on his throne, surrounded by fear. His guards stood frozen. Ministers argued in panic. Reports came from every province. Protests, strikes, humans and aliens standing together. The Emperor's golden eyes burned with confusion and rage. Silence, he roared, slamming his staff against the floor. The chamber fell still. He rose slowly, his cloak dragging behind him like a storm cloud. The human has poisoned our people. My son has betrayed the bloodline. No one dared to answer. The Emperor's voice dropped cold as steel. Bring them to me. In the tunnels below, Jack Wren adjusted the small blaster strapped to his belt. He stood near the entrance of an old elevator shaft, listening to the distant noise of the crowd above. Leary stood beside him, his glowing crutch steady, his expression calm but sad. Jack looked at him. You sure about this, kid? Once we go up there, there's no turning back. Leary nodded. I can't hide anymore. My father has to see me, not as a curse, but as his son. Jack exhaled slowly. All right, then we finish this together. The elevator rattled to life with a deep groan rising through the long shaft. As they ascended, the lights flickered, casting their faces in flashes of gold and shadow. Neither spoke. When the doors opened, they stepped into the palace courtyard, in a place of beauty and power now surrounded by soldiers. Don't move, shouted the captain. Jack raised his hands. We're not here to fight. Leary stepped forward, his voice carrying over the wind. I am Prince Leary Zoran. I demand to see my father. The soldiers hesitated, unsure what to do. No one had ever heard a command like that from a supposed dead prince. Then the massive palace doors opened, and the Emperor himself emerged. His armor shimmered gold, his face carved with fury. Stop, he ordered. The guards obeyed instantly. The Emperor's four eyes locked on Leary, the small, limping boy he once hid from the world. You should not exist, he said coldly. Your life brings shame to the throne. Leary took a deep breath. If shame means compassion, then maybe the throne is already broken. Zoran's jaw tightened. You dare lecture me, child? I dare speak truth, Leary replied softly. You called my weakness a curse, but it was a human who gave me strength. He showed me kindness when our people would not. The Emperor turned to Jack, his golden staff glowing. You corrupted my son. Jack met his gaze. No, I reminded him he's more than a symbol. He's someone who can feel and lead. The air between them crackled with energy. Guards raised their weapons, but the Emperor lifted a hand. Let him speak, he commanded. Jack stepped closer. You built this empire on fear, but fear doesn't last forever. Your people are waking up. They know the truth now. You can destroy us, sure, but you can't unteach what they've seen. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. You think your words can move mountains? No, Jack said quietly, but kindness can. For a moment, the great ruler said nothing. The sound of distant chants drifted through the open windows. Truth for all, the people cried again. The Emperor looked toward the city, his empire burning with light and rebellion. His reflection glimmered in the glass walls, a ruler wrapped in gold yet alone. Leary stepped closer, his voice trembling but strong. Father, please, you always told me strength means never bending, but real strength is knowing when to stand with others. Zoran's staff lowered slightly. His breath came heavy. He looked at his son, the child he had hidden, the boy who refused to die. I wanted to protect the throne, he whispered. I thought mercy would make it weak. Jack spoke softly. Mercy doesn't weaken power. It defines it. Silence filled the hall. The Emperor closed his eyes as if listening to a sound only he could hear, the voices of his people rising in unison. Then, slowly, he dropped his staff. The golden light faded. Enough, he said. The guards looked at one another in shock. Joran turned to the crowd outside and raised his voice. My son lives. The human speaks truth. The empire we built has forgotten its heart. A wave of gasps swept through the palace. I have ruled by fear, he continued, but no empire stands forever on silence. Today we begin again, Not as masters and servants, but as one people. The soldiers lowered their weapons. The crowd outside erupted with cheers that rolled like thunder across the city. Jack stood still, hardly believing it. Leary's eyes filled with tears. You mean it? He whispered. The Emperor nodded slowly. You are my heir, and this human is under my protection. He looked at Jack. You broke our laws, but you also broke our chains. For that you are forgiven. Jack smiled faintly. Guess that makes us even. Joran almost smiled back. Perhaps it does. Outside, the city shone brighter than it ever had. Humans and aliens stood together in the streets, not as enemies, but as equals. Jack turned to Leary, who stood tall beside his father, his crutch gleaming in the sunlight. Looks like you started something big. Kid, Jack said quietly. Leary grinned. No, we started it. The Emperor watched them both and whispered almost to himself. Maybe this is what strength truly looks like. And as the sun rose over Varus Prime, the Empire was reborn, not through war or blood, but through the simple act that had started it all, a human helping a broken child to walk again.